and welcome back to the Dice Breaker podcast. It's Friday. We're here. It's very warm.
No, it's not. I don't know
so
what you're
warm.
talking about. All these lot moaning about being warm. No, it's not.
Okay, I'm warm. My subjective reality at the moment is warm. Hello, I'm Matt Jarvis. I'm joined by Alex Lowleys and Alex Meehan. Welcome back. Hello,
double
how
trouble.
are you both?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm good. I've got some post lunch sleepies. I think that's a general feeling in the podcast at the moment. They're going to try and hype each other up.
It was a busy day today. We were working on not that secret project that's been in the works for a while, and was very fun. But also, the schedule meant that we only had first thing this morning to actually do it.
Yeah, so 9 a.m.
Everybody lining up.
I love that we're like, oh god, we had to work from 9 a.m. today.
I know.
Like, most
it's
people
you have
do
to be
that
on camera.
day.
Normally, being on camera from 9 is very different to I'm going to answer some emails and slowly kind of drum myself up to the rest of the day.
True.
Today was time to go. Be funny, be entertaining. Look, the world has its eyes on you right now at 9 a.m. on a Friday.
Yeah. But no, I'm good. I feel like I've had a string of bad luck lately. Just with weird, not great things happening. I dislocated my knee last week, which was an experience. Wouldn't recommend it. So recently I've had old, 80-year-old women, zooming past me on the paper. But I'm slowly recovering. But apart from that, Matthew Jarvis, I am all right. How about you, Lowleys?
I'm great, and welcome to episode number 74, Candy Store.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I love that 50 Cent song.
yeah. Oh God.
I'll take you to the candy store. Do boo do boo. For one taste of what I
74.
saw.
The lyrics of that song are not
I remember
worth repeating. Yeah.
Because that came out when I was I don't know, about 13, 14. I remember being obsessed with it, but obviously clearly not really realizing what it was about.
Yeah, not
Years
understanding.
later.
Yeah.
That is it.
I know all the words. That's one that I could do at karaoke easily.
How do you feel about that? I don't know.
Can you imagine if, at the Christmas party, I get up in front of the whole company and I do Candy Shop?
To be honest, by that point, I've had a few drinks, so I'll probably be cheering you on.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. It's the end of the night, isn't it? That and Snoop Dogg, Drop It Like It's Hot are two songs that I know very well.
Wow. 2 songs, that have sexual connotation. And it would be weird to do in front of everyone, but I'm kind of into it.
Do you know what? I did actually, I was at a work thing when I was still working in sales. We went to Harrogate for a sales show up there, a toy fair of some kind. And we went to karaoke and I was like, right, I'm going to do Snoop Dogg, Drop It Like It's Hot. I did not realize that the song is literally about 5 minutes long, and it just kept going and going, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty tired now, I just have to keep going. And it was only 3 of us in there. Literally, we went in and it was it's a bar, so there was tables and booths everywhere, but there was just no one there except for the 3 of us. And there's actually a guy in charge of the karaoke, and he stood on the stage and I don't know, he just looked really grumpy, and I was there doing Drop It Like It's Hot, Drop It Like It's Hot all over the place for ages and ages and ages and ages. I think my colleague my old colleague has a video of it somewhere.
Are there just long stretches of that song that are just Snoop Dogg just sort of hanging about? I can't remember exactly, but
Well, he goes Snoo, and that bit goes on for about 2 minutes. It's like a container ship coming into port. Just
well, does it get stuck in the Suez Canal or not?
Yes, yeah, and that's why the song is 5 minutes long.
Because he's stuck.
Very long. So it might even be longer than that. It felt like it went on forever, for myself. When I love being on stage and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love a bit of karaoke. Yeah, we did some We did some at the Christmas party all those years ago.
Like when, yeah.
That was when our mutual acquaintance Nate Crowley from he do a version. What song was it where he was just doing like the same lyric over and over again?
Well, we did Hanging Up at Second on the Wall, but that was in the bar.
Yeah, that was in the bar.
And then we did.
There was Stop Me Now with something about eggs.
Something about
eggs, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Johnny being so into. I remember because I think we did 3 or 4 karaoke rooms, and I remember like going from room to room and going into that room, and they were doing that song, and I was like, "This room is too crazy for me. Like I can't handle this."
Yeah,
it was like Wheels and Johnny and Nate and I don't know, a bunch of other people, and they were all just like, I was like, this is too much. I can't handle it. So I went back to like where the Ox guys were essentially doing like Disney songs. Yeah, I think
the Ox lot doing Hamilton. I think it was me and like Andy doing like Washington on Your Side and like taking the parts.
Oh,
and it was
so good.
Yeah.
It was a good time. I miss karaoke. Of all the things I've missed over the last year and a bit, karaoke's been right up there.
I love a bit of karaoke for sure. How are you back, Jarvis? Did you say? We should ask you.
I'm quite tired. It's been a busy week in the Jarvis household for various reasons, but I'm all right. I'm here. It's been a good week work-wise. We've done a lot of fun stuff.
Lots of interesting, exciting stuff. A very productive week. Hurrah!
Huzzah!
Yes, the Dicebreaker motto, hurrah, we are 19th century British explorers. We're here to chat about board games and stuff, although looking at this document, I don't think any of us has really played that many board games, so we'll probably just get on about some other stuff.
Between the 3 of us, 1 game has been played in the last week.
It's been a busy week, but not a busy week of actually playing board games, as is sometimes the case.
Mm-hmm.
You get caught up in everything else.
Funnily enough, in this job, you don't play board games as much as people think you do.
No.
Because you're like,
other stuff.
I'm too busy, doing everything else. But yeah, Matt Jarvis, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, sure.
Seeing as you are the only one.
I'm not used to going first in this. Normally I finish up and then transition into the next section of the podcast. But I played last night, in fact, because I suddenly was like, oh no, I haven't played anything for the podcast. And I needed something very short because I needed a night off. But my wife and I spent 15 minutes or so playing Happy City, which is a game that I only received recently, so I think it's quite a recent release. And I had kind of requested a copy from the publisher because I'd seen people kind of comparing it to Splendor, which is a game that I like very much. I believe we're all kind of fans of Splendor on the team. So for those who aren't familiar with Splendor, you pick up gem chips, you exchange them for cards. Those cards then give you gems in a lot of cases, and you basically just build your way up to getting lots and lots of points. Whereas in Happy City, there aren't different colored gems or anything like that. It's just a single currency. It's just coins. And you start with a Happy Mart, and you are looking to build your city. So it's a little bit Splendor, and it's a little bit Machikoro, but without dice. Because you just spend your turns, each round you get an income from the cards in front of you, and then you spend those coins to get cards from the middle. And those cards either give you more income, they give you population, so residents of your city, or they give you happiness. And your score at the end is just how many residents you've got times by how many hearts or how much happiness you've got. It's as simple as that, really. Like it's very simple. There's what they call a family mode, and then an expert mode. Because there are a few special buildings that when you've picked up certain combinations of other buildings, you can then like gain one of them, and it gives you like a bonus effect or a bonus like population or income or happiness. And it was one of those things where as I was playing, it was kind of like, it's a little bit Splendor, it's a little bit Machikoro. It doesn't necessarily do anything that's new, but at the same time, it's just so charming. It's just absolutely packed full of charm. It's got very sweet illustrations. It's very colorful. One of the fun things about it is you're adding buildings to your city. And so you can add like a shoe shop, which is shaped like a shoe, or a library that's shaped like a book, or a bakery that's shaped like a croissant. The hot dog shop has what looks like a Shiba Inu in hot dog bun, but then the Shiba Inu is holding a cocktail, and I don't know why, because it's just a hot dog shop, but I guess it sells booze as well.
Oh,
but it's
I was expecting a hot dog.
There's a hot dog place in New York City that is also there's a secret entrance to a cocktail bar. We have to go through a phone booth to get to, but you have to go into the hot dog shop to get through a phone booth to get into it's like a speakeasy. So maybe it's a reference to that?
Maybe. Yeah, Booze Hound, I don't know. But
maybe.
Yeah, so you've got all those kind of like relatively straightforward, like here's a shoe shop, here's a barber. But then you can also add, there's a dream factory, and there's a unicorn ranch, and there's like a Mars embassy, and like a superhero academy. So
these are places that exist in the real world.
No, but it goes into there, and all of these buildings are represented by kind of cute little drawings, and a lot of them are just shaped like the thing that they sell. So, like I say, it's like, here's a croissant-shaped building that sells baked goods. Here's a hot dog building shaped like a hot dog. And yeah, you gain these cards, and once someone gets 10 cards, it's the end of the game. You times your hearts and your people together, and that's your score. And it's just a really cute little game, really. I just had a nice time playing it. I think it costs like a tenner or something, or maybe 20 quid, but it's very, like I say, it's very simple. It's like a very bored down version of Splendor. It plays in a fraction of the time, and I don't think it's going to set the world on fire, but it's also the kind of thing where if someone just brought it out and was like, hey, do you want a game of this? I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, it's a fun little game. So I actually wrote a piece for the website today because I was like, yeah, this is a game that I had fun with. So I'll write up some thoughts on it. And
nice.
That's basically all I've played. Other than that, I've done very little that's of note because I've largely been doing adult admin tasks.
Boring.
My weekly anime club is watching Arjin, which is a series that I don't think it's not really grabbing me. It's basically like, oh, there are people among us who are what are known as Arjin, and they have these kind of like ghosts inside them, and they can't die is the short of it. It's like when they die, they just come back to life.
They got a ghost inside of them, Matt Jarvis.
Yeah, and it's fine. I don't really like the way it looks. All of the characters are unlikable.
That's a pretty
we're on to the second season now,
isn't
and
it?
The second season opening theme is not great. It's just one of those shows that we're just getting through it to the end, and then
why are you watching this if you're not enjoying it? I don't see
we started it, and we watch it as a friendship group.
It's like when you do book club,
and we chat about it.
And you have to read a book, and you might not like it, but you still got to read it for book club.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing I've ever watched, but it's just one of those where it's like, if anyone's seen Tokyo Ghoul, it's like a worse version of Tokyo Ghoul. It just seems to be going for the kind of like edgy, like I'm very grumpy and disillusioned with the world.
Is everyone do a lot of people in it like scoffing?
I know what you mean.
The main character is just like, oh, I'm really smart, and like, oh, I'm a genius, and it's just like very unlikable. There's no real redeeming.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, this person, like, you're not meant to like them, but actually maybe they're going to have a bit of an arc and they come to their senses. It just, none of the characters likable. There's one character that just like shouts a lot.
Shouts a lot.
Yeah, and it's just
you do sometimes get those characters that all they do is shout, and it's like that's your level, and you'd never go up or down, and it's like that's not realistic.
That's the problem. Is it like it ruins the dramatic stakes at points because like that particular character just shouts regardless of kind of the scene that they're in. So it's just like when the dramatic stuff is kicking off, they're shouting, and then when not so dramatic stuff is happening, they're still kind of shouting.
I haven't seen this, but I feel like I've seen it just based on other stuff I have seen, and it's like,
I feel like some better direction needs to be made there, where it's like, okay, maybe we leave the shouting to more appropriate moments where,
like I say, I don't really love the look of it. It's kind of got this like slightly, I think it's like slightly 3D, like, so it's not 2D animated. It's like slightly 3D, like computer generated animation, and it's got like an odd frame rate that makes it look, I don't know. I don't dig the way it looks at all. Other than that, I have played more of Ace Attorney. What's it called?
Of course, you play Chronicles? Phoenix Wright.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. It's the one with Herlock Sholmes in it, I'm now almost at the end of it, and it continues to be charming. It's actually it's interesting, that game, because a lot of the, like, Phoenix Wright, for those who don't know, is a game about being a lawyer. You defend cases, but this game actually goes into kind of like xenophobia in like an interesting way, in that you are a Japanese law student who comes to the UK, and a lot of the British people you meet are just like straight up xenophobic to you. And it kind of deals with that stuff in some surprisingly kind of interesting and nuanced ways, where a lot of the people you go up against, who are clearly not very nice people, but like the way they refer to you and the way they discuss kind of your like come across from Japan to study in England is like an interesting kind of thing that plays off of the 19th century Victorian stuff, and then also plays off of the very goofy take that they have on Sherlock Holmes, which is Sherlock Sholmes, who gets to the right answer but takes the wrong kind of journey there. So we'll go, this is right, and then you have to kind of solve the working in between, which I really like.
I mean, I'm surprised, because I kind of heard that the older Phoenix Wright games are like, they're very charming, but they have parts of it that are like, is this really okay? It's like,
some parts of them have not aged well.
With what we call booby ladies, where it's just like animations of jiggling, and also some of those characters are very young.
And in this one, there's some interesting stuff on kind of the legal system, in that you do one case in Japan, and then you come to England and you start to defend cases. And there's a lot of discussion of the British legal system. And at one point, there's kind of a thing where, without spoiling too much, you kind of come out of the end of a particular section of the game, and your character is kind of questioning whether it was really the right outcome, kind of thing of like, it's technically, the legal justice system ran its course, but when you look at it, it's like, was that really, like, is the justice system really that kind of bulletproof? So I think there's some surprisingly interesting discussions going on in a game that involves someone called Sherlock Sholmes goofing around and being silly. Other than that, I played a bit of the new WarioWare.
I've seen the adverts for that.
Get It Together. That's it. I was thinking of Touch, which is the DS one. Those games are silly and goofy. They're just like a lot of quick fire mini games that are very silly. It's like, pull the armpit hairs out of this statue, or like keep this.
There are armpit hairs in a statue?
Yep. It's like classic WarioWare games are like, pull all the toilet roll off of this toilet roll in 3 seconds. I really love them. They are very silly. They are very inventive. This one does some weird stuff where you swap characters and each of the characters controls differently. So like one of them has like a shoulder barge, and one of them can fire discs, and one of them has a boomerang they can throw around, which at points can be frustrating. There's like a character that just jumps continually, and I just found that more annoying than like, oh, this is an interesting way to tackle these same games. I was just like, just stop jumping. Like, it's just making it irritating for me. But
it's more wackiness.
It's very good quick fire fun. But yeah, that's literally everything I've done this week. That's my life in the space of 20 minutes.
Oh wow.
Alex Lowleys.
Hi.
Over to you. What have you been up to this week?
I've not played a single board game, so let's get it out of the way. However,
I've not done my homework, so let's just accept that.
I do have a date with some friends to play some board games all day on Sunday. Not just
Nice.
not just a little bit on Sunday, but all day. We're starting at 11 a.m. and gonna play through for the day. So I'm looking forward to that. Actually, gonna get some board games under the belt. What have I been doing? I've been getting into my really getting into my like middle-aged groove here by getting into gardening and watching boat races. That's what I do. Every Sunday I tend to, not every Sunday, obviously I'm not doing it this Sunday because I'm playing board games, but most Sundays now there's a lake not too far away, and I go there and I watch a boat race, and I'm actually planning to become a member of the boat club. I'm very excited about it because I really want to go sailing. So, and then I've been doing some gardening. I planted some tulips recently.
Oh wow.
Lots of different colours. I think I ended up planting, my mum got me a pack of like 6 bulbs, I think it was, and they were like these lovely pinky ones. they were called like Chinese something. I remember. I don't remember the name though. But and then went back to the garden center myself the next day or the day after, and I bought 4 more packs, not of the same ones, of different colors, and then I've planted them all now. So hopefully next spring I'll have some lovely tulips. Been reading about plants and stuff, which I never thought I would.
Idyllic life
I'm
right now, Lola's.
Well, I'm just, I turned 31 quite recently, and for the last 30 years I've had zero interest in plants. But now there's a plant behind me. There's a plant in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm planting. Whoa. I do like gardening. I usually like weeding, but now I'm actually planting flowers, and it's nice. So, I don't know, I'm quite enjoying it. And then I think that's kind of it. I've been watching some TV. Oh, I watched Shang-Chi in the cinema, the new Marvel film. Watched that. That was really good. Would recommend. Very funny, actually. Surprisingly funny. I didn't expect it to be so funny. So would recommend everyone goes to see that. It's also like an incredible like Asian cast. It's really cool the way that like even like apart from the main characters, a lot of the like kind of secondary characters they've put into have also been cast like Asian, which
appropriately.
Yeah. Well, but like I think they're in like San Francisco or something, so they didn't have to do that, but they've still done it, and I think that's really, really great. Like it's really strong effort.
It's a step in the right direction. Yeah. I mean, like we talked about last week, Awkwafina is in it, and I really like her. She's hilarious.
She's very good.
So I am tempted to see it just because she's in it.
You should, genuinely. Like, even if you're not a Marvel fan, it's just a good film, I think. Like...
Yeah.
It's decent.
I have been tempted to see it. I don't know, I feel a little bit tired of Marvel at the moment, which I think a lot of people...
They are bringing out a lot of stuff. Like,
they had a break, right? It took like a year after... Was it Endgame?
Endgame,
and it felt like nothing came out for a while, and then suddenly, like, we're back. It's like
constant.
Here's one every month, because Black Widow was like
TV
last
as
month
well.
or something.
So they had like, as soon as one TV show ends, another one is starting. So like, What If recently started, and that was shortly after
Loki.
Loki, ended, and it just keeps going. I don't know.
Content all the time, Lolies.
It's incredible, but also it is a lot. I understand why people would think it was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and now they're doing all these video games as well that they've just announced. So now the video games are getting that treatment.
More Spider-Mans, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Spider-Man.
So I heard really good things about Spider-Man and then Spider-Man Miles Morales. I didn't play either because not hugely fussed about Spider-Man. And then Miles Morales, I don't have a PS5, so I can't play that.
It's PS4 as well, in fairness.
All right, but I don't know. I'm always dubious about like games that have clearly been ported from like a more superior system to a less good system, because I've had bad experiences in the past of like, essentially really bad ports for systems that are just clearly not capable of running those games. But yeah, they're making like another Spider-Man video game, and they're making a Wolverine one.
Yeah, back to Wolverine.
They've got this other Marvel one. This other Marvel one coming out that I've seen dotted about. That's like meant to be like XCOM or something.
Yeah, is it Eternals, something like that?
No.
Wait, or is Eternals the TV show?
Eternals is the film that's going to come out.
It's coming out soon.
I feel like
there's
just so many things, and they all have subtitles that are relatively like
there's a new
within
Spider-Man
the same sphere of like
film as well coming.
The trailer for that was put out a few weeks ago. I think I was vaguely interested in that because I was like, if they get Willem Dafoe back for the Green Goblin, I'm in. Count me in.
The second Spider-Verse? That's all I want.
Yeah, to be honest, that's the only like film that I'm really invested in terms of like. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse, just amazing. So I definitely would like to see a sequel to that. But I'm glad you enjoyed Shang-Chi.
I really did.
Lolies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I might go and see it. It depends. I have this thing about cinemas where I get really angry at people who are talking in the cinema and just messing about. It just gets me, seriously, there is nothing that gets me so infuriated and angry as like people being inconsiderate in the cinema. I have multiple times stood up and like.
I've been to the cinema quite a lot in recent weeks, and like I haven't really had that experience at all. Like,
yeah,
it's been quite good.
I do think it's like it is. I do think it doesn't happen very often at all. But when it does happen, oh man, nothing grinds my gears quite like it.
You're probably also better off not going on like, you know, like Friday nights or Saturday nights when like the hooligans are out and about at the cinema. And maybe going like I went to see Shang-Chi on Tuesday evening. Yeah, so like going on those kind of, and that was like, it was quite busy, but it was like, as I say, it wasn't, there's no.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, those are the kind of films you want to watch. You're right, Lolies.
Yeah, something just flew and it just scared me. It's just the wind, don't worry.
I was like, oh god, what's happened? Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of films you want to watch in the cinema, right? The big, bombastic, like, that's the kind of real cinema experience. I don't really...
Mr. Bombastic.
That is not what I expected. When you started doing that, I was like, has she become the Grudge? I don't know. Was that flying thing actually a ghost possessing her? That will forever be...
Where's the Shaggy cinematic universe?
It will ever be that song will forever be synonymous with the trailer that I saw for Mr. Bean's Holiday or something, where he's dancing to that song. I just like remember seeing that and being like, well, I'm not gonna watch that film.
I saw that film in the cinema.
I did as well.
Of course you did.
I saw the cinema. I hated it.
Really bad.
I loved it. I don't know which one it was. Was there like a lot before that? I don't know, but there was a Mr. Bean movie before that I really, really loved. And I went to see The Holiday, and I was like, what the hell? I was so just disgusted, disappointed.
The quality of Mr. Bean has gone.
It's fallen off a cliff. Yeah.
I mean, I will say this, right? Rowan Atkinson, he's become one of those, comics that's like, I'm really old now, and no one cares about what I do anymore, so I'm going to make myself relevant by saying stupid stuff and complaining about cancel culture, because that's what a load of old comedians do now. Because when you just need to let yourself go quietly into that dark night, and you don't want to, what you do is you go on Twitter and complain about cancel culture. But I will also say that I don't think you really helped your career, Rowan Atkinson, when you appeared in such films as Mr. Bean's Holiday and all the Johnny English sequels that I never watched.
I think there's only been one Johnny English sequel, to my knowledge.
No.
Is there another one?
There are 3 Johnny English films.
I have a real soft spot for the first Johnny English film, and the second one is so bad. It's truly unwatchable nonsense.
I never put myself through that, or the third one.
Oh, speaking of bad films, I watched Tremors this week, actually.
Oh, like the original Tremors?
The one with Kevin Bacon. Is that the original?
Yeah, that's the original. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I watched that. That's a piece of pie.
Poo. We can say poo, it's fine. Kevin Bacon's not got a great track record either. But
No. Not a big fan, I don't think. Although I do like him in as I refer to because it was part of a movie night. I refer to it as that dancing one. By which I meant Footloose, but I couldn't think of it. I couldn't think of the name.
It's got a song.
I know. My mind just went blank. I've been very tired this whole week. I've barely slept, and it's been a busy day every day.
It's because you watched Tremors. You're all scared now.
It was before Tremors.
Oh, is there anything else, Lolies?
No, that's everything that I've been doing. That's it. I'll update you next week on the games I play on Sunday, because I'll actually have something to talk about.
What?
This section is either over an hour long or like 20 minutes of everyone just going, yeah, they don't have time for anything. Yeah.
According to BP Phantom, apparently there are 7 Tremors films.
Wow.
Are you going to watch all of them, Lona?
I was told, let's watch the sequels, and I was like, no, please no. I assume Kevin Bacon wasn't in all 7 of them.
No.
I think that's normally the way, right? It's like the first one has the bankable start, and then the rest are kind of straight to DVD.
Yeah.
Unless it does really, really well. But
he's too busy doing E adverts, right? That's what he does now.
I know. I keep forgetting that that's Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, he's just old. You know,
I just don't. When I see him, I don't think Kevin Bacon. It's very strange.
His skin is starting to look a little bit like bacon. Oh, he's fine. He can take it.
Crispy bacon.
Crispy bacon. Yeah, not quite Iggy Pop levels of beef jerky, but I think he's going down that particular route. But there you go. He's fine, Matt. He's rolling in it. He'll live.
All right. So what have you been doing?
Giving me a disapproving look. For having a go at Kevin Bacon.
Oh, no. It's just age. It'll get us all in the end.
Yeah, I know, mate. When I'm basically old now. My body's falling apart.
In fairness, not all of us will have massive paychecks from various advertising deals to help us into our older age. But
yeah, he's living life up. He's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, what have I been doing this week? Well, like Lolies, I've not been playing any board games, so you can just forget it.
Just forget about it.
Forget about it. Hey. What I have been doing this week is even though obviously I was talking about not going to the cinema, I did go to the cinema on the weekend. My friends dragged me out after destroying my leg.
The incident.
The incident, let's call it that. And we went to see, because they wanted to see it, and I was like, okay, I'll tag along. We went to see Jungle Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's as most films are these days, it's another Disney film with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yes.
And Emily Blunt in all her glory, and also Jack Whitehall is in it.
Oh.
And yeah. Why? Matt. You're not a fan?
No.
Why? Tell me why.
Just like, I don't know.
Is it because he hates Mr. Blobby? Yeah, that's it.
I don't know. I did not know of his stance on Mr. Blobby. I think I just find Jack Whitehall quite irritating. But that's just me personally.
I'm not a fan either. But Kobe Morris also correctly says, and Disney's 37th first gay character. Because spoiler alert, his character is... Well, the thing is, in the film, they obviously never say the word gay because it's a Disney film and they're too cowardly to ever do that.
You have to read some expanded universe thing that mentions it in a footnote.
Yeah, he has this
later, and they go,
He has this conversation with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character when they're just sitting around. And I mean, up to this point, he has been playing, so he plays the brother of Emily Blunt's character. And, he's fine. He has a few vaguely funny moments. But where they're throwing his stuff into the lake. He's like, oh no, don't do that. But he's obviously playing a very foppish kind of coded character. I wouldn't say he plays it in an offensive way. It's not like a classic effeminate, gay man who's you're meant to laugh at him because he's so effeminate. It's more like he's just sort of pompous and that doesn't fit in the Jungle Cruise thing.
That's just Jack Whitehall.
I was going to say that's kind of
and it's Jack Whitehall. Yeah. What?
That's kind of Jack Whitehall's shtick. It's just playing
slightly
posh.
Yeah, in a kind of what do you call it?
It's he's always on his
fish out of water. Yeah. So he plays that kind of character, and then he has this conversation with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Of course.
And he's talking about, why are you here? And he's like, my sister's very nice. She was the only one who didn't turn away from me or something. And then he says, my interests lie elsewhere, quote. But of course, that's his way of describing that he's gay without saying he's gay, because Disney would never allow like one of their characters to actually just say it or say they like men or whatever, because that's too obvious. So yeah, they're approaching it in the same way that they've done sort of previously, where they've had, oh look, those two people kissing in the background. Oh look, Josh Gad's character has a dance with a guy and he likes it. Yeah, it's like, okay, Disney, you're trying, but come on, like, you could do so much better than this. Otherwise, it's an alright film. It's kind of a romp, is exactly what you expect it to be. Like, as soon as I saw the villain, I started laughing very, very loudly. Yeah, and there are some fun bits. They try to pair up Emily Blunt and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character, and I'm a bit like, it doesn't quite work. But yeah, it's trying to be like Indiana Jones or like Pirates of the Caribbean, or as Mike Jones mentioned, The Mummy, which it will never be The Mummy, because The Mummy is one of the greatest films ever made. So don't stop trying.
I mean, it's literally based on a theme park ride, right? So I guess to some degree, that's what you're signing. Although Pirates of the Caribbean was that, and then they tried to get too much into the lore, and
the deep lore behind Pirates of the Caribbean
has issues for various other reasons, but yeah. But I liked the Jumanji films, and it's like it's odd because
the Jumanji film,
in that, so I keep like conflating these two films because it's like, oh, right. It's The Rock in the Jungle with ensemble cast of.
Both the Jumanji films are better than Jungle Cruise, right? And they are better because, one, they're funnier, and two, they have this cast of characters that just works very well together, and that's where most of the fun comes from. It's not necessarily like the scenarios that they find themselves in. Whereas Jungle Cruise has basically it's entirely carried on the shoulders of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and
the big
Emily
shoulders.
Blunt.
In fairness.
Big shoulders, and you know what? He's charismatic, but he's just basically playing the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson character. And Emily Blunt is fine. She's just like, oh, I'm a peppy lady who's going on an adventure, and it's going along the lines. Again, it's just trying to do Rachel Weisz's character, but nowhere near as good, because Rachel Weisz is just very, very good in that role, and she has amazingly quotable lines in The Mummy, such as oh my gosh, like, I'm a librarian, like the amazing the amazing chemistry between her and Brendan Fraser can never be recaptured, no matter how charismatic Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is. It was fun. There was a lot of CGI in it, obviously, and some of the CGI was. Some parts were much better than others, including there were some interesting designs, but some of the CGI just couldn't carry it off. It was good, but it's just not.
There was a couple of moments like that in Shang-Chi, and when I say couple, I literally mean I remember like 2 moments where I was a bit like, that's very obviously green screen in a way where I almost couldn't see past the fact that it was like clearly green screen. Which I was surprised about in like a big Marvel film.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a side effect of production during kind of the pandemic, because obviously Marvel/Disney has a lot of money, and they've done quite impressive things with, literally having like late actors appear on screen and be almost fully CGI, sometimes more effectively than other times. But
I suspect that my suspicion will be that they put considerably less budget into Jungle Cruise than they've done for, like, for example, their Marvel films, because their Marvel films are the things that really sell. The Jungle Cruise thing, I think they made it I think they're making another one. They basically confirmed they're making another one. And, like, there are parts of it that are like, oh, that's nice. But I will also say the pace of the film moves so fast and so quickly, and some of it's not edited amazingly well, where it's just like, here's this moment that lasts approximately 30 seconds, and bam, like, here's the next thing. Kind of like a roller coaster ride, I guess. But, like, that's acceptable when you're on a roller coaster ride, not when you're kind of watching a film. You're like, what? Like, what just happened? Okay, now we're here. It's good. They make some attempts to kind of confront some more unpleasant stereotypes of like action films like that. Right, the indigenous people are the evil ones. By the way, spoiler alerts for Jungle Cruise. It was fine. It was a good laugh. I did laugh multiple times, probably at bits I wasn't supposed to laugh at, but yeah, it was fine. If you want a lark, why not? Other than that, I've been watching more Korra, which is great, and more was at the end. I found my favorite character in the entire series. The character is called Juicy. Juicy is a sky bison whose nose is eternally snotty. And I'm just like, you precious thing, I want to nurture you like a sweet babe. So that's that series. And then I'm always just playing more Phasmophobia, which they've done an update for, and it's really scary now, like more scary than it was before somehow. And playing more Mass Effect Legendary. I've almost finished with the first game. It's taken me this long. 2 more bigger games after this. And it just reminded me like how much of the side content of that first game is just very. They clearly had a lot of ambition, but the budget just wasn't there, and that's fine. Like, it's why I've not done a huge amount of it. But a lot of it is just go to this place, drive around in the Mako for a bit, go to a generic-looking space station thing, go inside, kill some enemies. And then you get a little text box pop up telling you, oh, that was weird. That's the end of that one. And then you just go back to the ship and then you do that then a few times. Even the more story-based ones are kind of like where they have like cutscenes sort of to start and finish, still go along those kind of lines. And I'm just like, I genuinely don't miss this. I know a lot of people complained in the second one where they just got rid of the Mako sections completely. And I'm like, I'm fine with this because I always found those quite boring anyway. And then what they did with it in Andromeda wasn't that great to begin with. But I guess you play a game like No Man's Sky if you want something like that, to be honest. Like, just much better experience.
I got into No Man's Sky for a while, like a couple of months back. I don't know why. Because it's been out for ages, and I was just like, I'm going to give this a go. And it's like, oh, I started on a planet that's full of radiation, and now I'm just constantly dying of radiation on this planet until I can gather enough.
It's because it's a game that's gotten just substantially better, right? I mean, I've not played it, but I've just heard, like, over the past few years, it's just an entirely different game now.
Yeah, I think they gave it some direction. It was like a concept in search of like a focus, where it's like, we have this really cool thing where we just generate unlimited planets or billions and billions of planets, and everything's procedurally generated. And I think when it first launched, there was no kind of direction as to what you do with that. It's just like, here's all the stuff, but now there's like a, hey, like do this first, then fly up and go to this space station. Okay, here's like a story mission of sorts to go and pursue. But
yeah, it's probably the case of what we were all suspecting was like, oh, the game was pushed out because it needed to go out at some point. And it was pushed out before they were actually able to create like a structure for what you do in the game. And then they were like, oh, we can put that in afterwards. And then they've done that, and now people like it a lot better. So I guess that's a positive. Like,
I mean, fair play to them.
Turn that around.
For sticking with it, because it's been 6 years since that thing came out, and it's
I mean, that poor team received so much abuse afterwards. Like, regardless of, like how bad a game might be, Like, obviously I wasn't hugely happy when Andromeda came out. Like, that game has a billion problems. But no excuse to send abuse and nasty things to the creators, because you just don't do that. It's not okay.
Yeah, people. I think people on the internet, let's say, often become overly attached to like brands or ideas ahead of the actual people that make those things, and don't know the reality of making that stuff. It's like everyone that works on something wants it to be great, and it's the world we live in, where there's a lot of people getting very angry and being very horrible to people that they've never met and who are working very hard and often more than they should be in the video games industry.
There you go. That was my week.
There we go. All right, let's barrel on into short little news section. It's been a relatively quiet week for news this week. There's been some interesting stuff, and of course you can go find that over on dicebreaker.com. Like me and you spoke to the Funko Games folks about licensed games. Chase spoke to Magpie Games about the Avatar Legends RPG and where the almost $10 million that they made is going, with some, let's say, interesting comments from Magpie about how they are compensating their contributors. You can go and read Chase's piece on that. You can read me chatting about Civilization 1, Sid Meier's Civilization, which is a series I'm very fond of. Turns 30 years old this month. And so I kind of looked back on that, and Civilization, the board game, which actually came first and did a lot of the stuff that Sid Meier did.
So Civilization, the video game, is based on a board game?
Yeah, it is.
I knew it! I was having this conversation literally yesterday with somebody, and they were
although
legally,
Sid Meier has long insisted that he had not played the Civ board game and that actually it's entirely different. But you look at it and it's kind of like, is that right, Sid? Like, there's a lot of similar stuff here to the board game, which came out 11 years beforehand in 1980.
Well.
Yeah,
if
and also
I don't know my board games, then
Sid Meier also made like a train game based on a game by the designer of Civilization, the board game, Francis Tresham, who passed away a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's a really interesting story. At least I think it is, which is why I wrote it into a feature. But you can go and read that. But for this podcast, I've pulled a couple of interesting stories. One of these is kind of just like an interesting heads up, building on some stuff we discussed previously. Me and you spoke to Asmodee in North America about the news that they're raising some of their prices.
Yeah, so this is an announcement that's kind of in a string of recent announcements where publishers have basically come out and said, hey, expect our prices to go up because the current situation the current tabletop industry situation is there are a lot of rising costs involved with shipping and production that are essentially, it's causing havoc to the point where like some publishers are like, we're not able to, take on all of these costs ourselves. So we're pushing a certain amount of those costs onto the customer. How much of that amount we don't 100% know. Asmodee basically released an announcement saying the key releases from Fantasy Flight Games and Atomic Math Games, two of their biggest kind of studios, will be going up in price. And there are some specifics in the article if you go and read it on the website right now if you want to see some very specific prices. But the general rule of thumb seems to be some games are going up by about $10. Other games, particularly newer ones, are going up by about $5. So we're seeing the likes of Arkham Horror 3rd Edition going from about $69.95 to $79.99.
That's quite
big.
That's
a big price jump, which equates to about £58. And a lot of their bigger, older games are basically getting the same treatment. Whereas some of the titles. So basically, all their titles, Fantasy Flight, all the ones that are kind of in stock right now, are going up. But even titles that have been released earlier this year, like X-Men Mutant Insurrection, are also increasing in price just by a lesser amount. And essentially, they outright state these price increases are to do with problems with shipping, which we're seeing in terms of a shortage in containers. So any containers that publishers are trying to get a hold of are just hugely increased in price. Some by about, like 100% or over 100%?
Yeah, I think so. Chase's story, I think, was it Later Games was saying like a shipping container had gone from like $5,000 to like $20,000 in the space of like a few months, which is particularly for small, as Mode is kind of an exception to this in some ways. I mean, they're still not Hasbro, but for so many small studios, that's a huge
killer,
margin. Yeah, that can instantly sink a studio.
Yeah, so and also a shortage in raw materials. So I think this has also been referenced in previous articles we've written, particularly that cardboard essentially is there's a shortage of cardboard, which is making producing games difficult.
I have a shed full of cardboard, literally.
Yeah.
If they need any, hit me up. I got a shed full.
Publishers.
It's literally from the floor almost to the ceiling, shed-sized, full of cardboard.
It's you just like scalping cardboard.
I'm gonna sell my cardboard. It's gonna be pretty pricey though.
Single-handedly saves the tabletop gaming industry.
Well, no, I wouldn't say saves. They can buy it directly from me. I will give them competitive prices, but it's still gonna be fairly hiked up.
Loline's just got a cigar in her mouth. She's like, I've got to make some money, see? Competitive prices.
Well, I was going to bring it to the dump, but if I know it's going to be,
yeah, it's worth
something.
It's worth a lot of dough, Loli.
Yeah.
In all seriousness.
I am serious.
Loline's serious. This is the deal. Again, this is not Dicebreaker's opinion. This is my personal opinion. Yada, yada, yada. I can see Matt Jarvis gearing up.
Yeah. What's coming?
So obviously they're being very upfront about the fact that this is the reason why the prices are going up. So the fact that they're not doing something which sometimes I suspect some publishers do, which would be, business speak. We're not using specifics here because we never do that. At least they're specifically saying shipping costs and trying to get raw materials are the reasons why the costs of these games are going up. However, Fantasy Flight, Asmodee are huge companies. Like they've been doing incredibly well recently as well. They've got massive IPs. We're talking Star Wars, Marvel. Like that X-Men game we referenced. Arkham Horror is basically an IP in itself. I don't know the specifics of how much of the costs they're taking on compared to how much they're putting onto the customer, essentially. I will say that looking at things in general, we do reference an article that Chase also wrote, beloved Chase, about the fact that Wizards of the Coast are putting their prices up as well on Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering, two massive series that already aren't the cheapest, in my opinion. Like D&D books are, can be pretty pricey, and they've basically said in the next quarter, in this quarter, that they're going to offset the rising cost of freight and commodities. And I think they said that I don't think they've specifically said how much prices are going to go up. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was along the same lines of Fantasy Flight, if not worse. So, if we're not pointing specific fingers here, but when it comes, for example, Later Games, like they're a much smaller company in comparison, and they're facing exactly the same situation of having shipping problems, for example, trying to get copies of Oath out recently, and Oath is a big game full of lots of pieces. And
I probably don't have enough cardboard for Oath.
Yeah, sorry loading enough cardboard for Oath. And they're facing, a lot of these smaller publishers are facing exactly the same issue. I think I'd feel a lot better if they put their prices up, because frankly, they need support, because they are not sitting on a massive catalogue of, games, particularly IPs. Mr. Jarvis,
I was going to say, in some ways, you hope that if you look at this optimistically, and it's not a good, it's not a good situation. It's not an easy situation.
It's a bad situation
for any board game publisher at the moment. The kind of triple whammy of obviously COVID impacting things, and then shipping, which is partly due to that, but also is just happening anyway, and then also material costs and production as well. You hope that optimistically, although it's not ideal for consumers on the end, the people actually buying the games, you hope that a big company like Fantasy Flight putting their prices up, and again, like you say, we don't know whether that truly reflects the
how much
increase,
of it,
how much they're eating on their end because they can afford to do so. But you hope that because they put that up, smaller studios can put their prices up, which isn't, it's not an ideal situation for people, buying games, because games will cost more. But if that's what's kind of necessary to keep those studios in business during a really hard period, then I think I'd prefer to see that than the companies that can swallow some of that cost surviving through, and all the smaller studios that can't being unable to raise their prices because, they are offering games of a certain size or a certain scale, and therefore people in the shop might then just pick up something else. That's the hope, is that although it's not good in terms of people buying games, it actually helps those publishers and studios.
I mean, I'm more.
If the big names have to do it, then
I'm more for the smaller. So I'm more for the smaller publishers doing that. I think if smaller publishers said, right, this is what we're doing, like for example, that company that's putting out that Assassin's Creed game basically went out to it was funded on Kickstarter, and they went out to their pledges and said, we need more money to get this made. But I'm pretty sure the company making that game, even though it's an IP game, is it's fairly smallish. Basically in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to the tabletop industry, you have about 3 or 4 really big publishers, and everyone else is kind of along similar kind of amounts of or sizes, or such will get a certain amount of profit. I think if every small publisher said we're putting our prices up, then I'd be totally fine. I completely understand that it's really tough right now. You need some financial support. It just puts a kind of bit of a bitter taste in my mouth to see, Fantasy Flight and Wizards kind of doing it. I don't know. Maybe smaller publishers are doing it. They're just not really reporting it, but yeah.
Well, like I say, hopefully this kind of sets the standard, right? Of it then allows the smaller ones to feel like they can bring theirs up, because that gap will stay the same. But I think particularly in the case of Wizards, the pricing of Wizards has never been great anyway. Wizards are generally, say, greedy. This is my personal opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
But generally, the pricing of Magic stuff you see through Secret Lair, and the kind of FOMO that they push upon folks for Magic particularly is kind of, it's just not friendly at all to people who just are trying to play a game and enjoy that game. Like I say, with Fantasy Flight, I think it's harder to tell how much they're eating. You kind of hope that they have raised it the smallest amount they think they can on the consumer and retailer end, because obviously board game shops also are getting hit by this stuff because their margins are affected as well, and they don't work on huge margins to begin with because of distribution and so on. So you can look at it very cynically and be like, well, those companies just want their money and they're putting it upon other people. But you have to live in optimism that at least some of them are doing a hard thing to the level that they have to. But the rest of it is kind of behind the scenes. They're working it out to try and
essentially the long and short of it is the industry is having a really difficult time right now. It is bad. Like, and to be honest, my heart goes out to all those tiny little publishers that are just trying to float. And for example, had Kickstarters, completed their little Kickstarters completed, and then suddenly they're finding themselves with this huge bill for like trying to get a container or just desperately trying to find materials to make this thing. That's where my heart really goes out to, like those poor people who are trying to figure out something. Everything else is the case of tabletop gaming isn't the most affordable hobby to get into. And I think more than ever, board game cafes are basically going to step up and try and provide, those opportunities for people to be able to play games without having to shell out like a significant amount of money. Like, obviously these are physical things, so it's always going to be more expensive because so much production is involved and shipping and everything. But yeah, I guess the socialist is coming out in me. I'm like, again, personal views, not Dicebreaker. There you go.
But the long short of it is, if board games start to cost more, that's the reason. There is a reason behind it. Is that,
you know why.
Both small and big games getting hit by it. Let's move on to this second story, which is just something I pulled as kind of like an interesting game announcement. I have not thought about SoulForge in probably about 10 years. It probably was around the time that it launched as a digital card game. And it lasted for a few years. It was designed by Richard Garfield, or co-designed by Richard Garfield, known for Magic the Gathering and Netrunner and King of Tokyo and this and that. He's a very prolific designer. Yeah, Keyforge.
Keyforge, right.
SoulForge. Well, it's interesting you say that, Mian, because they are now relaunching SoulForge, the previously digital card game, as a physical card game, and they're really going Keyforge with it.
Okay.
So SoulForge Fusion is a physical version of SoulForge, which was only digital, but got shut down a few years ago. And they are calling it, let me get this right so that Fantasy Flight doesn't get sad, the first hybrid card game. So whereas Keyforge was the first unique deck game, this is the first hybrid card game. And what I think, the reason I pulled this, and part of why I'm so intrigued by this, is that it's using a lot of the kind of ideas that went into Keyforge, which, as you point out, Richard Garfield also designed. So Keyforge, for those who aren't aware, uses like an algorithm to generate unique decks. You can't mess with those decks at all. Once you have them, they are fixed. But the idea is that every single deck in the world is unique and has like a unique name on it, has a unique list of cards, and there are no two decks alike in the world. So SoulForge Fusion is taking that idea, but basically splitting the decks in half. So it's basically like Keyforge in that each of those deck halves will be completely unique. There will only be one of that deck half in the world of that specific makeup of cards. But you get two of those and you combine them together, which is a little bit like the Magic the Gathering Jumpstart stuff that we saw last year, and a little bit like Smash Up. So you get two deck halves, you smash them together, and that's your deck. So like Keyforge, you can't mess with it, you can't customize it, you can't swap like individual cards in and out, anything like that. But it's the first time I think I've seen a card game, or really any board game, because let's forget about Discover Lands Unknown, which was like the unique board game that Fantasy Flight put out and immediately sank.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed, to be honest, until you told me about it.
It did not land well. But this is the first time I've kind of seen someone going after that Keyforge idea. And like I say, this is co-designed by Richard Garfield and Justin Gary, who is the designer of Ascension, the deck builder. There's some pretty decent like design chops behind it. But I think the real seller here is that idea of like the promise of Keyforge. It's like when you get a deck half, you know that it's going to be unique, and it might be designed around like vampires, or it might be designed around like something else. Like,
all right, okay,
but
interesting.
But the idea is you just get two deck halves, you mash them together. That's your deck. You're ready to play. I think they're also doing like a version on Tabletop Simulator, so they're not doing a dedicated app, but you can scan in your deck and then use it to play tournaments on Tabletop Sim.
I will say, like the other day, I did actually play some Keyforge for the first time in a very long while. I was playing with my new flatmate because she had never played before, and Yeah, that game's still really good.
Yeah, and
I still haven't played it.
It's great. I mean, I will say this match lasted a very long time, but I think that's because one, we didn't have any tokens, we had to make our own. And two, obviously, the person I was playing with hadn't played before, but she picked it up pretty quickly, and it was close. Unfortunately, I lost. But it's still really good, and I just want to get my hands on some new decks, particularly some of the ones with the new expansion in Dark Tidings. By new, I say it was released earlier this year. But no, Keyforge. I just love the fact that Keyforge exists because it's not tied to any particular IP. It's just its own thing. And it's just a fun premise, and I'm not really fussed about it, like deck building in terms of not as a gameplay mechanic as like a trading card thing. Yeah, no, so more games similar to Keyforge. Count me in.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that they're just going, like I say, they've got a tabletop sim component to it, but for the most part, they're just going fully physical, like taking a digital card game onto the tabletop, like making actual cards. I think they said like the first set will have 15,000 cards, something like that. So that's almost as many as Magic has had in its lifetime, I think.
Whoa!
It's a lot of cards, but obviously they need that number to use an algorithm to make all the different deck cards.
It'll be the case of like card games like this don't really have a meta because you can't do that with this.
You can't like put specific cards into your deck that are doing really well unless you go and hunt down decks that happen to have those cards.
That's another thing that really draws me to it. It's not like, oh, this is a winning formula. This is exactly how. Obviously, it's the case of some decks will inherently be better than others because they've just managed to, Keyforge does a thing where it, luckily, because it has houses, it has the house system. Like cards in each house are designed to combo with one another. So that's why it does work with the random generator, because you're not just going to get cards that don't work with other cards at all. And then of course, when you're choosing a house every turn, you're choosing cards that are designed to work with one another, like whenever you do that. So it's not like you're not going to get any combos whatsoever and these cards just do not work together. But it avoids the whole meta thing, which I also really appreciate, because I've never been a huge fan of that, because I think it does gatekeep people from, being able to play well against others because they don't have exactly the cards they need to win, like consistency. So consistently.
Yeah. And it's, like I say, it's one of those things with Magic as well, like the way that Magic cards have gone. Like you say, like sometimes if you just straight up can't afford the card that's in the meta because the price has shot up to buy like Magic is a collectible card game, so it's entirely booster based. So it is luck a long time whether you even get those cards. So that just adds the whole like sort of sense of unfairness I think you can sometimes get from games like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, things like that. So I'm intrigued by this, although I will say the art style looks very unremarkable. It's like very generic fantasy.
I'm not hugely into that. Like, as much as Keyforge can sometimes be a bit hit and miss, at least it's interesting. Like, whereas this, there's some dragons.
Yeah, and I think so kind of similar to Keyforge's houses, there are factions within the Soulforge universe, and I think some of the deck halves are built around those, and they've insisted that if you have, for instance, a vampire lord, a zombie lord, you will get a load of zombies because you need those cards to bounce off each other and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. I'm just really intrigued to see someone else doing the algorithm thing, because
trying it.
I felt like that was a really cool thing, and people were like, "Oh, that's a cool idea." And
I think
nobody did anything with it.
Keyforge has not done Magic or Pokemon numbers, but I think it's doing relatively well, right?
I don't know.
They're still making
they put out more sets, so
it's even, and Fantasy Flight don't tend to support things that aren't giving them money. So
I think they said a while back that they had like 1 million decks registered or something like that, which is a big number, assuming that they're not just kind of there's not some kind of background thing that we're missing there.
I think it is definitely servicing an audience who want to try card games but are like put off by meta and by like having to build decks and just not knowing how. So
it's like those games still exist. There are still plenty of those games out there if you want to go and play them. Like we've all played Magic and played.
We'll cover them.
Like that, so
don't worry, we'll be covering them. We'll be playing them, but it's just nice to see something different.
Yeah, there we are. That was the week's news. Let's roll on with a very slight link to this week's weekly segment thing that we do. So this week, Duncan Rhodes of former Warhammer TV fame and now of self-titled Painting Academy, basically just a very good Warhammer painter, does some really good YouTube tutorials. He's launched his own paint range named after his technique, which is like 2 thin coats, which is kind of his go-to bit of advice for painting models, is to use 2 thin coats rather than 1 thick one.
I will mention that I have seen going around on the Twitter, and it's a very good criticism, is the fact that some of the tones of the paints that are probably designed to be used to paint darker skinned characters have been given names that are really gross and inappropriate.
Yeah, they fall into it's like an unfortunately common thing in fancy paints where, like anything that isn't basically Caucasian, like skin tone.
Yeah, they have like dwarf skin and like elf skin.
As well.
Yeah, and it becomes like described through like either objects or just kind of, like
beast,
very unpleasant terms.
Beast stuff, so, just like has dodgy connotations. So
I'm not sure.
It'd be great if they could change that. Yeah, because quite a few people have been calling them out on that, and I kind of hope they listen to the criticism, and because it is gatekeepy and it puts people off. To sort that out, please.
Yeah, very much so. But we here are instead going to come up with our own paint names for kind of like just the primary colors, because obviously there are a lot of colors out there. So I've written just down some kind of like very classic
colors.
Yeah.
I'm adding. Hold on.
Because again, like there are a lot of paint names out there that are just like very bad and very problematic, and even the better ones are often very generic and a bit dull. So we figured, hey, maybe we can do a better job.
Maybe.
I don't know if we'll go through all of these, but I wrote down a bunch anyway. So let's dive in, shall we? So, all right, first up, red. So I feel like we need classically it's like an adjective, right? It's like
more
blood
specific
red.
Though. What kind of red are we talking about?
Well, I think we can discuss that as we go.
Determine the tone, right?
Nah, we can just pick reds that we think are better. Like in the long term, we would have a wide range, a complete spectrum of colors. So
safety blanket red.
Safety blanket.
This is my safety blanket.
Yeah, that's quite comforting and nice. I mean, that is a very blood red there, Lolies.
It changes.
Like your lipstick.
It changes red from being like a gory blood color to being a very comforting color.
Oh, very nice. I like that. Yeah, I mean, if we were talking like a darker, sort of richer red, I don't know. I'm always like fond of like wine, sort of wine references. Maybe like a Malbec.
Do you think this
I'm
is
just talking about
really
what I'm drinking now at Shiraz.
Do you think this is really going to be really off-putting for any colorblind people? This segment.
Well,
because they don't know colors.
Colors are still colors. Like we can go through the like basic colors. Like red doesn't stop being red, right? It's like even if you can't sometimes differentiate between different.
Loli's is giving you a look back, Jarvis. I mean,
tell that to the colorblind people.
We're not showing colors on screen, but I mean, obviously, I can't speak from the experience of being colorblind, So yeah, but like colors still exist. It's just
okay. Just saying. Anyway, safety blanket red. There
I
you
mean,
go.
yeah, I think it's the case of like, here's a peek behind the curtain. Both Lolies and I aren't massive painters.
No.
And we're neither of us are hugely into miniature painting, and like we're not hugely familiar with the kind of like names that would be given to paints. So now we're like, oh, we don't know really what to compare it to. But another little peek behind the curtain. It's been very, very quiet this week in the old tabletop community and industry world. So at this point, we were kind of looking for a fun kind of thing to do. But I feel like Matt Jarvis is potentially carrying a lot of this.
I mean,
Chili
it's just
red.
paint colors. Like, yeah, chili red's fine. Or like recording light red. Like, you know, that real like bright red that's like, don't come to this room because we're recording something.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very key image for us, because when we don't see that, we're like, oh no.
Oh no.
Something bad's happened. We've just wasted potentially an hour and we've got nothing.
How about Loli's lipstick red?
I like
Loli's
that
lipstick
one.
red. Yeah, let's go for it. Because I feel like lipstick red is like a very familiar red for like a lot of people. Like a lot of people think of a very particular tone for lipstick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't carry red lipstick. It does not suit me.
I will never. I will vow right here and right now that I will never change my lipstick so that everyone knows what color Loli's lipstick is.
Loli's will never wear another shade of lipstick. This is it.
This is it for my life. I have to wear this when I'm sleeping. I have to wear this when I'm swimming. I have to wear this all the time. Never not wear it.
All right, blue. I feel like I'm gonna go. We'll need to license it, but I feel like Smurf blue. People know what color a Smurf is, right? Like Smurfs are a very distinct kind of like baby blue.
Yeah, but they're not. Are they still culturally relevant? I don't know.
Smurfs,
when was that last?
That's a good question. Yeah.
I feel like
when was that last animated film that was really bad that came out?
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Smurfs may be just outdated, but I don't know what color the Lampies are, but.
What?
The Lampies. Nobody remember the Lampies? They lived in a streetlight.
No.
They had like a fun song.
I think you made this up.
Yeah,
I think the Lampies as a child.
Matt has made this up.
Okay, Gonzo blue.
Again,
it's the color of the Muppet Gonzo.
Very, very specific cultural reference.
We're not licensing colors.
As much as I love Gonzo, which I do love him very much because he's my favorite Muppet. And he would be me if I was a Muppet, because I love chickens. Not in that way. I don't have a chicken girlfriend. Gonzo goes out.
How about this? The blue is called "This is not green, it's blue," because I have that fight all the time about a certain color of blue that some people seem to think is actually green.
It's just like the dress kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. But yeah, this color is not green, it's blue. That's the name.
That will be something. The dress will be something that will never, like, history will forget. But like for that, how long was it? Like week or something?
For the people who lived through it.
Yeah, I lived.
Forget about the pandemic. That dress, though.
The dress,
it's gonna be part of our history.
You should just call the blue the dress blue. To reference one of the most
and you said that the Smurfs would be like culturally insignificant for this paint, but you're going with like an internet meme of like one.
My thing is funny. That's the difference.
Like, hold on. I've actually got an example. Is this this an example?
People are saying teal. I can't see what color that is.
How about blue screen of death blue?
What's that?
Like when your computer crashes and you get that very bright blue screen.
Yeah.
Bit nerdy, Matt.
Yeah, a bit nerdy.
Oh, I'm sorry, but like I can't.
We're making mainstream colors here, Matt.
We want to hit the popular crowd.
How about Ian's yoga mat blue?
We can't just base on objects in our homes. We gotta have mass market appeal. Look, I'm the CEO of this newly founded paint company.
Okay, well then it's called This Is Not Green, It's Blue. That's what I'm calling it.
Lodi's decided.
I'm making a call.
This is not green, it's blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, like I've
Sorry,
been
Matt.
outvoted.
Because that will also be like if anyone is painting, right, and it's like get the colors and they're like, oh, okay, that's green, and then they see the label and like, oh no, that's not green, it's blue, and then they'll know.
It's a foolproof marketing plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be called Neil Breen.
Okay, next up.
Can we call it green that Neil Breen?
This is not
Neil Breen Green.
What's Neil Breen? What is that?
Matt Jarvis is shaking his head.
I don't know what that is.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's referencing a director who has created some very interesting films, including basically everyone. He is a master hacker who somehow hacks into everything, and then at one point he's in like a courtroom bringing all the bad people to justice. It's an experience. Neil Breen films.
Okay, that's really super niche.
Yeah, no one's gonna know what that is.
Okay, green.
It just made me laugh.
Broad beans, because like pea green is very common, but I feel like specifically the color of a broad bean.
Broad beans are white.
They're they're like very light green.
No. No. Why wouldn't you go? What about the pea? No, those are peas. We're not saying peas. Pea pods.
Mange too green.
Yeah.
That sounds fancy.
Pickle green. Tim the Goblin green.
What?
Okay, sure.
The thing is, we wanted to veer away from Goblin Green because that's a common.
Yeah, but we're saying Tim the Goblin.
Tim the Mange too green.
Mange too.
Mange
too green. Well, at some point this just looks like.
What about just Tim Green? Then we don't get Goblin.
Tim Green.
Lee Hiscock says Tim's Magical Green,
there
which I love.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's not paint.
No, Matt Jarvis call it that.
How about Little Tim's Green?
No. Please.
Little Tim's Special Green.
No. This goes one of two ways, and neither of those ways is paint. Okay. I've got Mange too green.
No, Matt Jarvis, you're no fun.
Tim's Magical Green will get us arrested and
no, it won't.
But this is no, it won't, and people will know that's a color.
Okay, fine. Tim's Magical Green is it's in this document. Okay.
Tony Morris does say, to be frank, he was a spore druid. Yes, he was.
Purple.
I punched you in the face.
I punched you in the face, purple.
Punch you in the face, purple. Punchy
I feel
purple.
Like bruise purple is like a very specific
bruise purple. I like it. It's I think
purple.
I would pick that because I'd be like, oh, that's like quite dark, and I like dark things. You know, it's like
yeah, it's just like the grim dark fantasy.
Yeah,
like,
Loli's is a well-known edgelord. It's true.
Okay, edgelord purple. Yeah.
I mean, if you remember back to the character I played in Blades of Dark, you'll remember that I am the most dark character. So.
Wait, what? I
played Chris myself. Yeah, that was a joke.
Yeah.
I played the least dark character.
Oh, okay. I thought you.
Okay.
Well, you're like, hey, I've got credentials.
How about bruising purple, like IN at the end, like no.
Like IN apostrophe.
Yeah, bruising purple.
Yeah, I like that. All right, rather than like aubergine, you could just have the aubergine emoji.
Oh, how about
like,
bruising for a bruising purple?
Oh, sure, yeah. Just sure.
Yeah. Lovely's and I about Tim's Special Green, and then you talk about aubergine emoji. I just don't understand. I feel like we're given a different. I feel like we have to adhere to a different standard than you do.
And aubergine is purple. Tim's Magical Green sounds like weed. Okay, what color is yellow?
What's aubergine emoji?
Pea yellow.
Pea yellow.
Pea yellow. Yeah, but pea can be different colors of yellow.
Okay,
You need to
you're
specify
healthy.
like hydration. Yeah,
How about
right.
you're healthy yellow?
A well-hydrated yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that.
Oh god. Okay, orange.
Sunset palette. Sunset palette orange. I don't know, I was just making a reference to Will's obsession with the sunset palette. But...
Orange. I mean,
I've not had a What's-It in a while.
Highlighter.
Can we get a branded deal with What's-Its?
Aren't you glad it's not green?
Wow. Matt Jarvis's face of just, oh god, I'm so tired.
I definitely think it should be Aren't You Glad? Something.
I mean, a lot of people are agreeing with you in the chat.
Agreeing. I didn't even see that when I said it.
Orange You Glad is fine.
Okay, Aren't You Glad? I like
that's
it.
That's fun. It can be whatever orange color after that. I don't care. Okay. All right, grey.
Ooh. Well, the color of Matt Jarvis's hair after this podcast.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
No, never mind. I can't think.
Okay, people are saying Dorian Gray.
Dorian Gray. It never.
Such a deep cut.
The paint never goes off, but somewhere there's a paint pot that just slowly gets more and more dried out.
How about gray there? Like instead of hey there.
Oh god.
Gravy train.
So many. Oh goodness. Gravy train.
I mean, it makes no sense because like.
Can we say
choo
choo gravy train?
Yeah,
gravy train.
With Loli's choo
okay,
gravy
and
train.
it's and it's the specific color of the smoke that comes out of a train's like a steam train.
Obviously, we don't have to even say that.
Yeah, they just know.
Gravy train, choo gravy train.
That's a lot of Y's in one word.
Okay, we'll do two more. Silver and gold. So silver first, like metallic silver.
It's kind of like grey.
Okay, we'll call it that. Yeah.
Loli's calling
shiny
grey.
Yeah, can we call it shiny grey?
Shiny grey. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
What about? Wait, I'm trying to think of like
shiny yellow.
I'm trying to think of an older celebrity who is like super hot, and then we can be like, oh, like silver.
Brendan Fraser.
Fox, like a silver fox grey type. I don't know. I'm just trying to mix up from the shiny. I
like the shiny. I think all the shinies should be shiny, whatever color their shinies are. I got like that.
We should name it. Yeah, we should name it after a older celebrity who's just doing it.
Brendan Grazer says truth in chat.
But that just sounds like another grey. Shiny grey, you know what that means because it's shiny.
I think Matt and I are on board for shiny grey here.
Yeah.
Lee Hiscock says DeVito.
Okay.
Danny DeVito's Silver Dream.
Gold or shiny yellow, sure. Unless you've got a suggestion for
Matt
gold.
Jarvis.
No, I like shiny yellow.
Matt Jarvis.
Hello. Unless that's what you're planning on calling the gold color, in which I'm flattered.
You should call this. You should call the silver Danny DeVito's Special Silver, or something. Danny DeVito's Silver Dream.
They're trying to come up with paint names, not like blends of weed. Magical green and Danny DeVito's Special Silver.
I think Mian has a talent in naming weed.
I feel like
we're in the wrong miniature paints.
We're in the wrong business here. We need to cross over.
Okay. Loli's has added that Dicebreaker Pink should be in this.
Yeah, or actually somebody said in chat earlier, I think it was Aiden folks said Blobby Pink, which actually is a way better suggestion than Dicebreaker Pink. I was trying to stay on brand, but my brand's Blobby, so.
Well, as this is collectively Dicebreaker, I'd like to think we're going to prioritize.
I've had enough blobby for a lifetime. I don't need blobby
paint. Shannon Withers says Paul Hollywood in 2014. Specifically for the silver one, I think, maybe. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. We've got time for a couple of quick questions. Yeah, we got through it. We muddled on through. So coming to you soon, that range of paints. You know what? I'll quickly run through them. It's Lowly's Lipstick Red. This is not green, it's blue. Tim's Magical Green. Cruising for a Brooding Purple. Well Hydrated Yellow. Orange You Glad. Choo Choo Gravy Tray. Shiny Grey, Shiny Yellow. And Dicebreaker Pink.
Do I have permission to post that on our Twitter? No explanation. Or I can explain if you like.
Leave it, because I need to put this up on Monday anyway, so I will use some of it then.
Okay, fine.
Please.
Access denied.
All right. Lowlies, would you like to read this one from Jacob, please?
Jacob says, this was from chat by the way, what tabletop games benefit from having a mascot or a lead figure, like video games have with Master Chief, Lara Croft, Mario, etc.? I will say, I saw this question earlier, and I would say no. Well, to be honest, I think we kind of have one in the shape of Meeples, and I kind of think Meeples is better than as a figurehead, if you will, because it's almost like more androgynous, and like it's not like, it's not, it doesn't have like a certain gender or skin color or anything like that. It's just like a shape that represents board games in general, I think. And I think that's my answer. I think that's my answer.
I guess it's not owned by a particular company either, so
yeah,
just everyone can use it. I mean, I've been on the record before as saying that I don't particularly love Meeples, but I think you're right. It's actually quite a nice kind of generic shape that like different publishers can use and different creators can use. So it kind of it kind of decentralizes what people think of when they think of board games, which is quite nice.
Yes.
I mean, to me, the ultimate board game mascot is Rhino Hero, our Lord and Savior. What is there not to like? It's a superhero, saves people, Rhino, climbs up the buildings, is cute. Rhino Hero. That's my mascot anyway. That's kind of who I think of.
I think Rhino Hero would be a bit better, because I think the sad truth is that, if anything, probably the most recognizable mascot from board games is the Monopoly Man, right? Rich Uncle Pennybags.
Yeah,
and
but
most people would recognize that.
Yeah, kick him off the tower.
I reckon a plain old pawn.
Get the guillotine out.
Oh, I guess character, yeah. Sorry, I agree.
Yeah, guillotine the Monopoly Man and put.
Yeah, Rhino Hero is the people's. Rhino Hero is the people's character.
Rhino.
Yeah, Rhino Hero.
The hero of our hearts.
Yeah.
I don't. It is true. There's very few. I think because board games, more so than any medium, is more about like the players, right? You don't necessarily take over characters a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You are just, you're essentially yourself.
It's like you're playing yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And even in RPGs, like you create a character, so it's not like there's one consistent character a lot of the time. Like D&D has some of its specific characters out of the other lore, but.
I think for me personally, it's one of the reasons why I'm so, kind of more into board games than I'm into video games, because I do prefer having my own thing. Like when I play video games, sometimes the enjoyment of that game is ruined for me by the game dictating how my character would react to a certain situation. Like if an NPC said something to my character and it's built into the game that my character then responds in a certain way, and I'm like, well, that's not really how I want to respond and not how I would respond. I find that quite hard sometimes, the fact that it's so baked in. And it's one of the things I really like about board games, because while there might be in a specific game, there might be a way to ideally play a situation. Sometimes I'm like, well, screw you, I'm going to do it, even though it's worse for me, I'm going to do it this way just because I want to change the way I want to do things. And I think I like that freedom of being able to play yourself or play whoever you want in whatever the situation or scenario is.
Yeah, agreed. I think, you're right. It's although there are exceptions, because obviously like artwork doesn't always reflect people that actually play games. Like it can be quite like exclusionary a lot of the time. But for the most part, games themselves don't often have like characters or set kind of like you say, like representations of the characters around the table on the board. You just kind of see like a top-down thing of like, here's your farm, but you're not a specific farmer. Like you don't necessarily look a certain way or talk a certain way. So yeah. So I think a meeple is a good. It's not a bad one to have. Like it's generic enough where it can reflect like a large number of kind of different things. All right, thanks, Jacob. Mian, would you like to read this one from King Jut, which I believe we got over email? And if you, of course, would like to email us with your own question, you can email us at podcast@dicebreaker.com.
He knows now. He's glued in.
I threw you off by doing it between the two questions. But yeah, Mian, if you'd like to read this one from King Jut, please.
Yeah. King Jut says, "Hi. I want to know when is the best time of year to buy tabletop role-playing games. Also, do certain companies have certain days of the year for sales? For instance, I know that Palladium always has an amazing Christmas bundle. Well, I believe that Renegade, for example, Renegade Game Studios currently has a sale on. I'm not 100% sure if the RPGs are involved in that. I think they are.
I think it's for Labor Day, right?
Labor Day, yeah. Well, for one thing, you can check dicebreaker.com, as we regularly cover deals, bundles, and sales in the tabletop gaming world. I don't know if there's a specific time. I mean, for example, coming up next month, there's Free RPG Day, which takes place, I believe, in October. Is it the 16th, maybe? But it's basically an event that takes place online and in local stores, depending on where you live, although it is international, where you can go in and you can get free like quick start kits or like campaigns, adventures, things like that. October 16th. There is an article about it on the website right now, or you can just go to Free RPG Day, and that can kind of hopefully get you started on some RPGs. Otherwise, Matt Jarvis, you're tied into the industry. You've got your fingers on the pulse of the industry. When's the best time to buy tabletop RPG?
I think generally it is around holidays, because that's when most publishers tend to have sales. So obviously Black Friday, like a lot of folks put stuff on sale around then, like US holidays like Labor Day, because a lot of the publishers are US based. Obviously in the run up to Christmas, there are often sales, or just following Christmas for the new year. It's kind of what you'd expect from looking at any other like retail industry, I think, a lot of the time, because there's often not just like outside of something like Free RPG Day, there's not like an international tabletop RPG day that has that kind of clout. So I think generally it's the times you'd expect with everything else, when everything else goes on sale as well. And there's not a lot of rhyme and reason to the industry a lot of the time. Like things come out here, there, and everywhere throughout the year. You obviously see things come out around Gen Con, but that tends to be brand new games. But a lot of the time, if you are going to conventions, obviously when it is safe to do so and when you're comfortable doing so, that's often a good time to pick up RPGs as well, because a lot of publishers will have kind of like show deals, or they'll have things that they may not make available elsewhere. And as Charlie Etheridge Nunn points out, Bundle of Holding as well, and like obviously Humble Bundle does some RPG stuff. There are various kind of sites like that just have periodic deals for things. Like I think Drive for RPG does kind of occasional sales as well. So it's just kind of keep eyes out to the regular places, but I don't think there's any super secret to it.
Yeah, we regularly cover Humble Bundles, so please go for us when you get Humble Bundles.
Yeah. Shall we do this very quick last one from Ryan Anthony Lowleys, please, following up on something we were discussing
Ryan
earlier.
Anthony Lowleys? Any relation of mine? Ryan Anthony in chat was asking when we're in the middle of a discussion. They asked, "Does this mean it's time for publishers to look for more localized production instead of looking to Asia? Potential for environmental and now economic benefits?" That's a good question. I don't know how. Obviously, we were talking about the rise in like containers going from like $5,000 to $10,000. Would it make more sense, for example, for UK publishers to publish in the UK? Is the problem that they still need to then ship maybe potentially to the US and other countries?
I'd suspect that the price of moving everything to like a more localized place would still probably outweigh the increased shipping price, particularly because most publishers will expect it to come down. Obviously, it's spiked at the moment, but long term, I think like uprooting production and trying to move it to like a more localized place in, for instance, like Europe or America would, I would suspect, outweigh the costs of doing so anyway. Which I would guess is why a lot of publishers don't do that. I know that there are definitely localized distribution centers. So a lot of Kickstarters, for instance, will send things to, for instance, like a European distribution center and then like a US distribution center. But I think production is still largely often centered in places such as China. But yeah, it would be interesting to know off the back of this kind of shipping crisis that we've had recently and the material costs, whether it has any long-term effects on production or whether it is, let's say, just kind of a really tough, like undeniably like a very tough time at the moment. But from what I understand, that's affecting all industries as well, because it's not just shipping containers for board games, it's shipping containers for everything. But, you know, we're seeing more and more kind of decentralization in terms of production and publishing, particularly in things like tabletop RPGs, where folks are able to produce short runs of like booklets or short runs of books in kind of like local, you know, production facilities, or even just going down to, you know, a print shop and printing out like 200 copies to send to backers. So again, like maybe that there will be some kind of shifting from the lower end of like a lot of indie creators as well. But I suspect for the big companies, it will continue to be cheapest to just do what they've always done and to kind of ride out this rough period for the time being.
There's some really interesting discussion about the environmental impact and also what could be done to kind of curve that. In the interview I did with Andrew Navarro, who is a lead or founder of Earthborn Games, which is basically a publisher specifically designed to create board games in a more environmentally friendly way. So if you want to read more about that, you can go and read that interview. But there were some it was an interesting discussion to have as someone who is very much aware of the kind of environmental costs of board games. For example, if people get rid of them, throw them away, that is essentially a form of waste. Cardboard might eventually, degrade depending on whether the cardboard has plastic on it. And then obviously plastic miniatures, I don't know how long they stick around, years and years and years, presumably. So there is an environmental cost both with shipping, creating, and with keeping board games. It's why it's always good to, pass board games you don't want on to charity shops or other people. Never throw this stuff away because, that's got to go somewhere, and it's often a landfill, which isn't great. So, but to be honest, the most environmental impact that the industry has is in transporting, I believe, in transporting and creating games, because obviously all that paper and cardboard got to come from somewhere, and also they've got to ship those board games somehow, and obviously that creates emissions, etc. But it is something that really needs to be considered now. It cannot be ignored anymore. Like, there is a cost. And we are seeing the impact of climate change already. It is important for especially larger distributors and publishers to take note of these things and start considering what they can do to help the situation. But
you wonder whether something like the cardboard shortage will kind of speed up
finding
companies
an
looking into
alternative.
which obviously if that then is more environmentally friendly as well, that's kind of the fact it shouldn't take that for them to get there. And definitely, like, some companies have made inways, like I think Osprey's with the stuff like Harbor, the German game company, I think has like quite a good track record with sustainability, but there's so much more that can be done, like you say, like particularly around plastic miniatures.
Navarra was talking about fungus or something. Like, apparently there's a kind of fungus that you can turn into like a physical, you can mold it into like a physical box. So I think there are alternatives. It's just whether companies want to invest the money and the time into it. Just like a lot of stuff with environmentalism. There you go.
Yeah, you hope that the industry will change before it's too late, because it's already kind of too late.
It's getting there.
So yes, but yeah, thank you for your questions, everyone, and thank you all for listening and or watching. If you happen to catch this on the audio version, we are live every Friday from 2 p.m. BST, which is like kind of what it is right now, but not quite, because we're obviously 2 hours into this. But you can catch us live and chat in the chat and put your questions and play along with each week's game. But that's us for now. Thank you for joining us, Alex Lowleys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me and for commenting on how lovely my lipstick is today.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. Good enough, I would say, to inspire a paint color.
I thought you were just leaving it at that.
Good enough.
Good enough. No. And Alex Meehan, of course, thank you for being here. Also, I would say, what a fantastic T-shirt you're wearing, Alex Meehan.
This old thing.
Part of the new Dicebreaker merch range. Which you may have seen pictures of Lowleys and Liv on social media as well, wearing some of the new stuff. We got some really fun designs.
We are models.
The wonderful M. Holler, who works with us, did some fantastic designs around werewolf.
Which is really good.
Yeah, like just general kind of like hobby stuff. You should go and check it out. There's a link on the dicebreaker.com website to get to the merch page.
And I believe there's a link below as well in the description.
Yes, there will hopefully be one in the video description as well. But yeah, it's really, really good stuff. But that really is the end of the podcast. Thank you all. Thank you both for being here. We will be back next Friday. But until then, look after yourselves, stay safe out there, and have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye.